Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with Rare Gem Productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. Our goal is to explode your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy Maxfield.
And I'm Dr. Cheryl-Watkins-Moore. I lead our inclusion initiative for BioSTL and for the region. Hey, girl.
How are you?
I am well.
Well, for our listeners who don't know, we are less than a week past your Vision Conference on the 19th of October. And to say it was a success is an understatement. Between Arlen Hamilton being in the house, generous with her time, and so funny and so personable and so like, you can do this, but it's a lot of damn hard work.
Right.
Which we know, and we were glad that she affirmed. To the sessions and the participants, you had over 300 people register.
Yes.
It was fabulous. So we would just want to
missed out.
Remind our listeners to stay in touch with Cheryl and what's going on at BioSTL.
Yes.
As you know, BioSTL and CET are our founding presenting sponsors.
We
could not do this without them. And so we know that they're also doing other great work in the community to make sure that entrepreneurs are connected to the resources they need and receive the inspiration and support that they deserve. So thank you to them and to you guys for checking them out and listening to us so that we can reach more and more people. We want to just remind you that you can find us wherever you find your favorite podcast. So spread the word, share us, and ask your friends to subscribe. More listeners mean we reach more people and inspire more entrepreneurs.
And we're always looking for sponsors, guys.
Always looking for sponsors and always looking for story ideas because we are now planning for 2019.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, 3, darling.
Wow.
Yeah, 3. Yes.
Wow. And we still have more stories to tell.
So many stories to tell.
Oh, my God.
So whose story are we telling today?
So, interestingly enough, for the past 30 years.
I love your history. You always give us context.
Yes. So we don't just jump in here and start talking to people.
Well, you know.
But this is very interesting. For the past 30 years, the Society of North American Goldsmiths has published a magazine called Metalsmith that covers contemporary makers, artists, production jewelry, fashion, and more. The magazine showcases the skill and talent of those who can shape and forge metal into creations of art and purpose.
I like metal.
I do too.
And I like metal with shiny things on it.
Yes, and I like it hanging around my neck or in my
ears, my fingers, my toes, whatever works. It's almost, it might be second to food in our personal appreciation of things.
Yes.
So anyway, yes.
And yes, we digress, but that's okay. We have a local metalsmith who has the skill and capacity to make metals come alive through her creative vision. She uses that vision to create positive change in underserved communities. This innovative artisan utilizes the arts and entrepreneurship to inspire. Shayba Muhammad joins us when we come back, so stay listening.
CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, is a proud founding sponsor of this Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. We want you to know all about the great things they are up to. Square One offers 2 training options. Square One Ignite, a 4-week program created to help founders quick start their business model validation process. Or Square One Bootcamp, an in-depth 10-week, 50-hour program that combines formal instruction with hands-on learning, networking, and mentoring. To learn more about Square One Bootcamp or Square One Ignite, visit CETSTL.com. And for your renewed and continuing support, CET, we say thank you.
My name is Shayba Muhammad. I am the designer and owner of Mahnal, as well as founder of the Makers Program. To me, entrepreneurially thinking means to be a problem solver. Of course, you want to be a person who starts a business, but also what are you using that business to do? What problems are we solving and how are we being of service to the community?
Joining us today is Shayba Muhammad, designer and owner of Mahnal Jewelry. Mahnal is a collection of handcrafted contemporary brass jewelry. It takes its inspiration from nature, architecture, and textures. Mahnal also sheds light onto diversity, Islam, and the Arabic language.
That's really cool.
It is.
Thank you.
And Shayba started her career by studying fashion and design at the Institute of Art in Chicago.
Woo-hoo, big ups for Chicago.
Big ups. And the Art Institute is quite remarkable.
Yes.
And she's back here in St. Louis to study metalsmithing and do her jewelry full time. So we're so glad that you could join us.
Yes, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh. I met Shayba at earlier this year at a Brazen event.
Right. So some of our listeners might remember us talking to Mindy about Brazen, and one of the entrepreneurs joined her for that, I believe.
Right.
And
it was a brunch. What was it called?
The Be Seen Brunch.
Be Seen Brunch. And
Pitch competition.
it was a pitch competition. And what was really cool is that there were a wealth of different women that were there presenting different ideas for businesses. And that's where I met you. And I love your jewelry. I was like, oh my God, her jewelry and the pieces she wore that day. I was like, okay, how can I get that piece off your neck and on my neck? Okay.
I had to wear my statement pieces.
it's very easy. There's a price point associated with her work.
Exactly.
Because she's a working artist.
Yes, she is. So tell us about, how did you get into the whole, well, first of all, are you from Chicago? Because you can.
I am actually from St. Louis. I went to Chicago. Well, I sort of ran to Chicago. After I graduated high school, I had these big ambitions of doing fashion design and being a fashion designer. So that's when I went to the Institute of Art, which I went briefly and I wasn't able to complete. But that sort of was the start of a domino effect into making jewelry today.
So that was it opened your eyes to art and how jewelry works it is an art form.
Was
right?
it your medium when you went to school, or did it become your medium while you were there?
No, so it became my medium after. So I was my family has always been full of creativity. I mean, musicians, my father and grandfather, they were fine artists. My grandmother was a fashion designer, seamstress. So, it was everywhere. I always knew I wanted to do art. So I went to school for fashion design. I wasn't able to finish. I had to start working full time. And I actually worked as a visual merchandiser, specializing in the accessory department. So accessories has always been my weakness. So I was spending all of my money.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yes, all of my money. As soon as I got my check, it went right back to them.
Yeah, I could never do that. I would be very hungry, but I'd look great.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I was looking great, but not doing so great.
Yeah. So. And my brother actually has done the merchandising for different retail chains as well.
Oh, wow.
So I appreciate sort of the ability to be creative in that medium.
Yeah.
You don't think of it necessarily that way, but there's a lot to putting things on display in ways that make us want to buy.
Yes. And so that actually, doing the merchandising was really valuable and sort of started, and this was before I started making jewelry. So that actually was sort of the start of me thinking about, using design as a way to communicate with the buyer, with the customer, and how do I utilize my creativity in a way that converts. So, I started making jewelry because I had to stop buying all the jewelry that they had in the store.
And you were just as creative or more, obviously. Right?
I think so.
I think so. I'm telling you.
I think so.
I wanted to take that piece off your neck and put it on mine.
We can talk about that.
See?
Good businesswoman.
There you go.
She's engaging the buyer through design.
There you go. Oh, my gosh. So how long ago was that when you started making your own pieces?
Yes. So I really started to take it more serious in 2013. Okay. And that was actually, I moved back to St. Louis in 2013, which was the same year that my father passed away. Oh, okay. So, which I actually see that point in my life as one of the, really valuable and really important for me as far as really sitting down and saying, okay, before I leave this earth, what do I know that I want to do? And so that's when I said, okay, I'm going to go all the way with being a jewelry designer and learning metalsmithing and really refining my craft. And I started to ask myself questions about, okay, what do I want to bring to people?
That's very introspective because a lot of times people just jump into doing things and not really thinking through, as we both know.
Well, and you obviously were thinking about design as a way to connect to the buyer, as you said, but also this, I needed to, impractical, right? Like Absolutely. I like jewelry and I can't keep buying using my whole paycheck, right?
Yes.
And right. So, and also recognizing then that there would also be a need in the market. But then that's that reflection piece, which is actually one of the things we talk about in terms of building an entrepreneurial mindset. Reflection's a big part of that because it allows you to see opportunities, but also connect to your why. Absolutely. So what was your why?
Man, so I feel like it was a connection of a lot of different things, and it really took me sitting down and just becoming aware of how do I bring all of these things together. So for me, it was a need. I knew that I didn't want to live a life that didn't feel fulfilling to me. I know that I needed to be creative. So that was really important because going back to the fashion design, I knew that I wanted to be something that women wore. That was important for me. And then also saying, okay, what is it that there has to be a message behind. So I wanted to be of service in some way. And so that sort of started me down the path of thinking about the identity of Mahnal and how that came to be.
So what does Mahnal, because I'm sure since you were very introspective about how you got into this, what was the thinking behind the name Mahnal? Yeah,
so I knew that I wanted it to be an Arabic name, which it is. My name is also Arabic. I have a Muslim background. I'm Muslim myself. So I knew I wanted it to be an Arabic name, but I knew that I wanted it to be something that felt like a good fit. And so I was in this space where I was sort of trying to figure it out, and I was just letting things come to me, and I would, try it on and say, well, does that fit? No, maybe not right. And there was this YouTuber, her name was Mahnal, and when I heard it, I said, man, that name is so beautiful. So I looked it up, and I found out that it meant attainment, achievement, success. And I said, wow, this is perfect.
Yep.
This is what I want women to have. Also, when they wear the jewelry, I want this to be something that uplifts them, something that's a reminder of them to achieve, to be successful in, whatever goals or ideals that they have.
That's beautiful.
So was the Arabic language and Islam part of when you said you were looking to connect different things and be of service? Were those some of the themes in your life that you wanted to make sure you connected to the art you were making?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I couldn't have done it any other way. So another part of Mahnal is, this idea of living intentionally. And so the jewelry being handmade is really important to me. So I always describe it as, every mark that's on there, every curve that you see was made by my hands.
Wow.
There's a story behind how this thing came into form. And so each piece, I give it an Arabic name or a name that I feel like has sort of a deeper meaning impregnated within it. And when you go and, you see the piece and you see the name of it and what it means, this is an idea or a characteristic that I sort of...
I was about to say, when you said impregnated with it, it's like being born, a piece of jewelry being born by you, created by you. That is so very, very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was just thinking that with Islam, the accessory we most readily associate with Islamic women is the hijab and sort of the fashion side of probably your aesthetic, right?
Absolutely.
So for a Muslim woman, how does her jewelry fit into her religiousness, and as well as her own personal style?
Yeah, so I feel like that's going to be different for different Muslim women. But I think that the common thread there is always this sort of introspective reasoning as to what it means for me to wear this. So for me, modesty or, covering my hair and my body to me means that the focus then goes to what I have to say. The focus then goes to the contents of my mind. And sort of accessories, I've always loved fashion. I've always loved dressing up. So to me, it's just sort of where can I sort of stretch and flex the ability to do that while still being true to myself?
Wow, that's beautiful.
Why brass?
Oh, man.
Of all the different kinds of, you know,
Yes.
because we don't often think of it in terms of jewelry.
Right.
Right? Like I'm doing some stuff at the house, and brass has become this really central theme in decorating. And I wear a lot of silver, right? And so I'm just curious how brass was your choice of medium for that.
Yeah, so I love to talk about brass. So
Tell me. I know very little, except I really am drawn to it lately.
yeah, so brass is actually one of the hardest metals that you can use to make jewelry with. And it takes a lot of patience because you have to heat it up and reheat it constantly to soften it, to sort of form it. But brass, I find really beautiful. And in storytelling with Mahnal, I always try to connect back to this idea of timelessness, this idea of taking ideas that are relevant today, as well as styles that are relevant today that, you know, you can still wear this piece a year from now, years from now, and it'll still be just as timeless or classic. So brass, I feel like when I'm studying, for example, ancient history. I love looking at jewelry from especially sort of the Eastern area, so the Mediterranean, Egyptian jewelry, but also even Mayan and Mexican jewelry. They all I sort of want to capture that idea of this is something that has age to it. This is something that has a story to tell. And
weight.
And weight, exactly.
Yeah.
And weight. You know, so these are things that I sort of felt like brass embodied well. And when you look at it, it has an antique look to it because of the yellow tone. And as you continue to wear brass, it sort of develops a patina and gets darker, and you can leave it like that if you like it. If you don't, you can always polish it. So I feel like it's very versatile.
Yeah, because you can go from the same piece looking new to looking old to going back to looking new. So it's like you said, it's timeless. So how are you making the jewelry at a location? Do you have a workshop? I'm sorry.
I think it would be a forge, right?
A forge.
Yes. So I actually this year moved into my first studio space.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So I am really excited and happy about that.
Where are you located?
So I am near Cherokee Street.
Oh.
I am right off of Jefferson and Winnebago, which is near, I feel like everybody's familiar with Sump Coffee, if you know the area. So I'm catty corner. I'm in that old Baker's Union building.
Well, and that's a great neighborhood if you're visiting St. Louis. You know, the Cherokee neighborhood, the Fox Park neighborhood, which is adjacent to it. Sort of, I think the borders kind of blend in that space there too. But you'll find a lot of artists.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even antique shops as well. Sort of that theme of what is old is new again. And
absolutely.
Things like that. Well, when we come back, I'd love to learn more about the work that you're doing today, the Maker's Mart, and your journey as an entrepreneur. So we'll be right back.
BioSTL is a proud founding sponsor of this entrepreneurially thinking podcast, and we want you to know all about the great things they are up to. BioSTL Fundamentals is an entrepreneur development program targeted to founders wishing to start a company in the bioscience space, including therapeutic products, diagnostic products, medical devices, animal and crop agriculture products, and research tools. Participants earn resources by achieving specific coaching goals. You can learn more about BioSTL Fundamentals by visiting biostl.org. And for your renewed and continuing support, BioSTL, we say thank you.
I'm Mindy Mazer. I'm the Executive Director of Brazen St. Louis, and entrepreneurial thinking to me means no ceilings. And no ceilings means blue sky. And so I think entrepreneurial thinking is about making sure that we can actualize on all of those big dreams and big business ideas in our blue sky.
So you have your own studio and you're located here in the city, but we also know that you have Maker's Mart. So tell us about that. What is that?
Yeah, so the Maker's Mart is, so last year in 2017, in September, I did a pop-up event. This was called the Maker's Mart. So this was sort of a test version of an idea that I'd had in my mind for years, and just going back to, that space where I was doing a lot of introspection after my father passed away. This was one of the things that I said, okay, I think I'm going to try to take a step forward and make this real. So the Maker's Mart was a pop-up last year celebrating Black and Latino artists. So I had vendors come to sell the things that they made and created. We also had local musicians come and perform.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, we had live artists.
Was this in your space or?
No, so this was actually at DK Annex.
Okay,
Oh, we love Christy.
friend.
Yes.
Christy and James.
Yes, I have to give them so many things because they were so supportive. I had no idea what I was doing. And they helped me so much, and they continue to.
And just for everyone out there, they are an African-American couple that own one of the incubator spaces that's located in our city.
And you can go back in our archives and find our conversation with them.
Yes.
So you were there and you at DK Annex, and what from your perspective, what did this event allow you to bring to fruition? What was the dream that this was fulfilling?
So it started where I didn't really know what I was sort of creating, but I knew that I wanted to support artists of color. So that I set out to do that, and I did it with a lot of help from some really generous people. And so I sat back and I thought, okay, what's the next step? Someone asked me at the event, well, will you do this again next year? And if you do it again next year, what will you do different? Random question, but I'm glad they asked it.
And a loaded question.
A loaded question, yes. And so I said, well, the next thing I want to do is connect these makers with retailers. So fast forward some months later, I am applying for the startup competition at the Art and Education Council.
Wonderful.
They wanted to fund and support bringing new arts programs into St. Louis, or starting new arts programs in St. Louis. So I applied for it, and as I was doing this application, I was refining exactly what the structure of the Makers program would look like. So I went on to do the pitch competition, and the Makers program was selected as one of the winners. So,
that is wonderful.
Yes.
Congrats.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So now I'm at the Art and Education Council, and the Makers program as it exists now, and I feel is definitely going to continue to evolve and grow. But it's a series of 12 workshops over a period of 12 weeks where makers, artists who want to build scalable product-based businesses go through this program, and they learn the fundamentals of building a business, which is really unique, not only for Black and Latino artists, but for artists that want to start businesses. So this is actually sort of a gap that has not been sort of attended to. So being an artist and trying to understand business, I mean, I think we know that that's a little bit of a struggle, but also serving these communities adds another layer to it. So bringing in local experts and professionals to cover things like branding, marketing, financing, raising capital, wholesale also.
That is phenomenal. So where are you getting your experts from? Just the community? Are you reaching out to the community?
So the community, I mean, and I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of support for building out the programming for this. People that have been connecting me with other people they know that they think would be interested in it. And I think we're really, I don't want to say yet, but I think we're really rounding it out to a really great group of instructors that, I mean, it's going to be really valuable and impactful.
That's fantastic. So when does your first cohort get seated?
So the first cohort, which is only going to be 6, and we're still taking applications, by the way, starts in January. And this is going to go out for 12 weeks. And then after the 12-week program, we're actually going to, it all culminates with a pop-up. So the Makers Mart comes back, where they'll get to present these new-to-market products to the community. The community will be able to come out and learn about these artists and support them. And we'll also, so what's going to be different this time is I'll be working with local retailers and boutiques.
That's the next piece I was going to ask you about. That is that's really impactful for a lot of these artists. So they're getting not only the education for 12 weeks on how to run a business and run it more effectively, but then you're doing the introductions to potential customers from the community as well as buyers from the retailer market.
Right.
That's amazing. I don't think anybody's doing that in this city.
Not that I know of. And, we touch a lot of consumer product entrepreneurs through Square One.
Yes.
Folks who I need to send to you for
applications. Please do.
I think that piece is the scalability piece is always what we're interested in, right? And that getting the fundamentals, but then also really talking about what does it mean to go wholesale? What does it mean to be in a retail setting? What does it mean to get larger and larger accounts? And what does it take to service those? I mean,
absolutely.
Because as you said, your jewelry, every nuance of that piece you've touched, you've imparted in it, right? And doing that at scale
absolutely
is a whole different proposition.
Right.
Not that you are necessarily doing that yourself, but how you take your art and craft and then how you deliver it to market. Just for example, I could see where buying a piece that she's touched and every piece of it would cost me a lot more than maybe one that either her apprentice or her shop produced, right?
Right.
But even getting artists to think along those lines, what does it mean to produce art at scale, and how do you price it, and how do you get it into the right venues where people are willing to pay what it's worth?
Absolutely.
Because I think with any artist, and I look back at healthcare, when I left healthcare, physicians are artists in a certain way, right? They teach you the skill of how to treat a patient, but they don't teach you the business aspect. And I look at that. This is the same type of thing.
Crafts,
right?
You're practicing a craft.
Exactly. And you're so intent on being a great artist.
Skill.
Yeah, it's a great skill, but then you've got to marry that with understanding the business piece of it, because you won't be successful.
Absolutely.
I love this.
Absolutely.
I love this. Yeah.
And will your focus continue to be on Black and Latino or Latinx artists?
Yes, it will. I feel like these are the communities that need it the most. They need more representation. They need more access to resources, more access to guidance to take them to where they want to be. And also they need more examples in the community the communities that they live in, of seeing small businesses owned by people that look like them.
And getting more of these types of players into the commercial market, because if you look at Nordstrom's, if you look at all these other retailers, very, very few of the artists or the jewelry lines or whatever reflect communities like you're serving. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah. It's a totally different opportunity,
right?
Different
business
being
model.
able to, and it kind of makes me think also of like a corollary to a slow food movement, like a slow art, slow fashion movement, juxtaposed against fast fashion and disposable things. There's a way that as there's more of an appetite in the market for these brands that have substance, essentially.
And there is an appetite for the slow fashion right now.
That also gives you an opportunity where, you want to make sure that entrepreneurs of color are represented in those spaces where there is going to be a higher price point and perhaps a more loyal collector following, right? Having pieces that you collect over time and do that. Well, that's just fascinating. And so as a woman and as a Muslim woman and as a Black woman, what is being an entrepreneur meant to you? How has that helped you shape your identity and work with others who aspire to do the same?
Yeah, so it's so intricately woven into, the whole reason why I do it. It's a part of my identity. So being a Black woman, of course, I look in my community and I say, okay, these are needs that we have. How can I contribute to solving the problem? Because they're not only part of my life, they're a part of, our city could benefit from this. It's a win-win.
Because I truly, I'm like sitting here racking my brain. I don't know if this concept exists. I know it doesn't exist here. Does this concept exist anyplace else in the country?
Not that I know of.
So you are forging paths.
That's a little metalsmith humor for you. Didn't even know you had it in you, did you?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I may have to keep that one.
Fortune pass.
We give. We're givers.
Freely. Right? No, in exchange for a piece. No.
Easy there. Supporting our minority entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs. Don't be taking equity right off the bat now. So it's imbued in absolutely. I got your back. But in terms of being part of that solution, and do you see your business as part of not only your own personal ability to build wealth and create legacy, but also to contribute to the community?
Absolutely. So as I'm continuing to build out Mahnal, I'm building out Mahnal, and I'm also building out the Makers program.
Yeah, right.
So Mahnal is where I get to have my creative expression, where I get to have a conversation with, people in the community in a sort of different way than I do with the Makers program. So Mahnal will continue to be my full-time job. I enjoy doing it, but I also have plans for it to grow, to continue to scale it.
That was going to be my next question, because you're doing these pieces one-off. So how do you plan on scaling?
Right. And so that's a really key part in the Makers program as well. So we have all these handmade artists. How do you scale a handmade business?
Right.
And so we have the manufacturing workshop, which will start to answer some of those questions and look at some of the solutions where you can sort of do that. So one way, of course, is to bring in people to help you. And so then it becomes, how do you decide what elements do you want to give up and allow other people to produce, and what parts do you sort of want to keep to yourself to maintain that idea of this is an individual piece made by me, the designer, the artist. So we answer a lot of those questions, and there's many options, things that you sort of weigh on an individual business to business basis, where you have to decide there's going to be some sort of give and take. What do you maintain that stays true to the identity for me, for Mahnal?
So how are you balancing all of this, Shayba? You have a family?
I do. I have a 1-year-old little boy. Well, actually, he'll be 2 in December.
Woo, another Sagittarius.
Yay.
Or Capricorn, but we're assuming he's a Sagittarius.
Okay. I actually don't know.
When's his birthday?
His birthday is on the 14th, December 14th.
He's a Sagittarius.
Okay.
He's in good company.
Okay.
We're just going to warn you now, Mom. Lots of fire and energy.
Ooh, yes.
Oh, well, I'm seeing a lot of that already.
Okay.
He's almost 2 too? Oh,
Yes.
that's really coming out.
Don't worry.
Yes.
Well, our parents didn't kill us. You won't kill him.
Okay.
It'll be good.
Okay.
So almost 2.
She seems very calm too, guys.
Yes. Very calm.
Man.
Oh my God. So you're balancing a 1.5, almost 2-year-old.
A husband also.
That's a whole thing too. And then these 2 businesses. How is that working? When do you have time for you?
Well,
and what do you do?
To be quite honest, I don't take a lot of time for me. I know that's like such a no-no, but
it's normal too. I mean, whether you're a male entrepreneur or female entrepreneur, finding time for yourself and time to recharge is a perennial challenge.
Yeah. And I feel like because these are both very new ventures, I have to be fully invested, at least at this point, to sort of molding them into what they'll start, continue to grow into in the future. So right now, I just kind of tell myself in my head, like, I'm doing all the hard work now, and then, later I'll level it out. So,
and that's really what it is. I mean, we typically don't ask sort of the work-life balance questions, because we know as entrepreneurs ourselves that it's an ebb and a flow, and it's a wave that you ride, right? And you've got to learn how to ride the wave in a way that you don't drown or smash your head on the bottom or any of the other things that can happen to you when you're riding a wave, right? And
there's seasons.
There's seasons, whatever analogy, but there's definitely not balance per se. But as you grow as an entrepreneur and as an artist, what do you think are some of the next things on your, obviously getting these two pieces where they need to be, but do you have another big thing that you're burning to do?
Man, so outside of Mahnal and the Makers program, I haven't really been thinking too much outside of
what? Fair enough.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, this is another thing that I'll be adding to my plate is homeschooling my 1-year-old.
Okay.
Oh my God. Do you understand that's what schools are for?
You can have an offline conversation, mom to mom.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you, my siblings and I were homeschooled for a period of time. Then we went to a Muslim private school. Then we went to an all-black public school. Then we went to a more diverse public school.
Oh, my gosh. So you guys got to see the spectrum.
He has an eclectic educational journey ahead of him.
Exactly.
As I say, I give it to you moms who want to keep your kids at home. I value school.
I will say, maybe we'll talk a year from now and I'll be different. Maybe I'll have a different.
Yes.
You guys can have a mom-to-mom conversation and figure out what's working. So if folks want to find you, because like you said, I mean, Mahnal and Maker's Mart, these are two wonderful, nascent, early ventures that deserve your full attention. So if folks want to find out more about either one, how do they find you?
Yes, so you can find Mahnal at mahnal.com.
And it's spelled?
MAHNAL.com. Or on Instagram, the handle is just at Mahnal. And for the Makers Program, it would just be themakersprogram.com.
Oh, wow. That's easy. And you still have applications open?
Applications are still open.
And is it like a selection process? They have to...
There is a selection process because we do want to make sure that it's going to be a good fit for the applicants. That
I meant to say interview process, not application process.
Yes. So a brief phone interviews.
Okay. And is there a cost associated with being in the program?
Yes, so there is a cost associated with it. We're still sort of working out the structure on that.
Skin in the game.
Absolutely. But we don't want to block people out. So
okay. Wow.
Well, we're always balancing those two things in the programming that we do as well. So what we want you to take away is that there's a wonderful program that you should explore and throw your hat in the ring. And then I'm sure we can figure out how to make sure that the right applicants are able to be at the table. Because like other programs within our community, I know there's a lot of attention to making sure that they're as accessible as possible, whatever that might mean. So we really appreciate you taking the time today. Tell us more about your business, your process, the vision you have, and the reality you're creating. So this is really exciting, and we're so glad that you're here in St. Louis building your businesses.
Thank you. Well, I'm so happy that you allowed me to come and talk about it all.
Oh, my goodness. We'll be talking to you again after you get some cohorts going through there. Maybe you can bring...
most definitely. We'll definitely have to have that.
Yes, I would love that.
Some folks on as well. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurially thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneuriallythinking.com. #ETHINKSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.